I'm about done with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, really, how much information do you really need about people? Do I really care what you had for dinner? And on top of that, do I really need to see a picture of it? Well, you'd be surprised what they were doing in the late 1800s. Hey, this is Tony Tominick
Sherry Spencer.
and Sherry. Where are we going tonight?
Well, tonight, I was a little bit concerned because I heard you mention that you're giving up Facebook. What, for Lent?
Yeah, I'm over it. It's too much information. Everybody's putting postings of what they had for dinner, and I like to have connections with people, but I think I'm dumping Facebook.
What, do you think it was all that much different back in the day, the 1800s, early 1900s?
Well, yeah, they didn't have laptops. They didn't have Twitter. I didn't recall seeing George Washington tweeting anything.
Well, but they did have newspapers, and those newspapers weren't a whole lot better than the stuff that you're seeing on Facebook. Let me share a little bit with you, if
Okay.
you'll indulge me.
This ought to be good.
Yeah. Well, they put a lot of social matters in the press. And for some reason, you frequently saw them make mention of pleasant gatherings at different social events. Let me give you an example, okay?
Is a pleasant gathering anything like having like a keg party?
Well, I think a pleasant gathering means they didn't have to kick anybody out. Well, here we go. In September of 1894, Miss Nettie and Kitty Miller from the Lake Shore made a very pleasant visit to the Methodist Episcopal parsonage a few days since. Said so right there in the Elyria Republican newspaper.
They just visited somebody's house and it got in the news?
Yeah, they went to the parsonage and made a pleasant visit. I'm glad they made it pleasant.
You gotta love that language, though. Where you going, hon? I'm gonna go visit the parsonage, and we're gonna have a pleasant visit.
Well, and then there was a reception given for Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Titus at the home of the former's parents, and a very pleasant time is reported, according to the newspaper.
So did they have to call the paper to say, yeah, this is Art Titus. I just want you to know we're partying tonight over at my house?
Well, I hope that's what they did, because if newspaper reporters stalked these people spying on their parties, that would be pretty antisocial, I would think.
I wonder, Sherry, how fascinated people were with reading those little blurbs.
Well, they must have been quite fascinated, because this went on for years, this in-depth reporting of people's private and personal comings and goings. Now, moving right along, though, there was the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Once again, we've talked about them before, and they were having an event at the home of Mrs. James J. Cox. That's the name we should all recognize here in Avon Lake, J. Cox.
What were they doing over there?
She was hosting a tea.
Yeah, they weren't hosting a booze, that's for sure.
And apparently it went off very pleasantly, according to the newspaper.
I wonder if pleasantly is the word. Like, we have everything's awesome now.
And amazing.
I wonder if back in the day, pleasantly was the awesome.
Yeah, or amazing. Everything is amazing now.
Yep.
I've been amazed into a hypnotic state by all the amazement that surrounds us today.
I wonder if they had like a whale of a time, because right behind.
Oh, that's a whale of a tale.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just social matters that showed up in newspapers. There were sports reports. I know you're excited to hear about this.
They didn't have sports back then, did they?
Well, sure they did. They had baseball. Baseball was apparently the game of the day, because listen to this. From May 2nd, 1895, in the Elyria Republican newspaper, under the heading of Avon Lake. Special to the Republican newspaper, the boys played a game of baseball Saturday afternoon. That's it. That's all they said.
Really? No score, no win, no
No,
loss?
no, no. Somebody must have written in the paper and complained, though, because then in July of 1895, when they reported the next game, they did give a score. They said that the Avon Lake Nine played a game of baseball with the French Creek Club, score 22-14 in favor of the former.
And we were even good back then. That's always good when you can whoop up on Avon.
Yeah. And then in May of 1895, it wasn't just baseball, because in May, there was a report of George Andrews and Will Engel taking a trip to Cleveland on their bicycles on a Sunday.
That's a bit of a ride.
Yeah, it is a bit of a ride. That's pretty heavy duty athleticism, isn't it?
They were probably going to some parsonage to have a pleasant time.
A baseball game. Probably going to see the Cleveland Indians play, huh?
Oh,
And then, we already have mentioned that this gets a little up close and personal, but they always had the sick list in these newspapers of yore.
really? I mean, they had listed, Tony Dominic has gout.
Yes, I mean, they could have. Not that you were around back then to make such a report, but here's a sampling. Mrs. Jerry Martin is confined to her bed with a severe attack of rheumatism. Yeah,
And you
and
think, you don't even read that kind of stuff on Facebook now. I mean, you don't,
and then Mrs. Kinney will go to the Huron Street Hospital in Cleveland for treatment soon.
that's it.
That's it.
You must have been at the
That's it.
party at the parsonage.
But when somebody was getting better, that made news also, because here we have in May of 1895, we're glad to see Mr. Conklin out again. He has been very poorly all winter.
So poorly must mean that you just had a touch of the sciatica or something, right?
Or something. Yeah, or something. And then, are you ready for this one? This week in the newspaper, don't ask me why, but it did. Fred Gilder is suffering with a very sore foot caused by stepping on a rusty nail.
Ooh. Oh. So,
Yeah.
I've written a few newsletters, as you know, and I've struggled with content. And I used to have a corporate one I would do where we paid for filler content of, you can, they must have really been hurting for news back then.
Either that or rusty nails in the foot were a really big deal.
Yeah, I think those will kill you, right?
Yeah. So it's bad enough to make the newspaper because you're on the sick list, which sounds very ominous to me. But listen to this one. I would not want my name associated with this particular situation. This is in September of 1894. David Sawyer Sr. still lingers on these mundane shores, but his hold on life is very feeble. His faithful physicians think that before a great while, he will pass to that land where the wicked cease from troubling and the weary be at rest.
Speechless.
Would you want to read that about yourself?
I want that written for me when I'm in my waning moments of my life. I want somebody to say I'm going to where the wicked, what was that? Wicked cease to exist or whatever.
Yes, and the weary will be at rest. And I think if you picked that up and read it in newspaper, you would probably have this reaction.
Oh, Lord.
But a little more cheerful now, and a little more cheerful note. An exciting town improvement was reported in the paper in May of 1895. It looks as though we might have an electric road. A surveyor went through Thursday surveying a line a little south of Lake Road. You know what was coming, don't you?
Yeah, electric road.
The Lakeshore Electric.
Yeah, well, it's
Electrical.
electric. I love it. I love that article. That's a cool. I'm gonna have to do a little more reading on that one. Yeah, that's the beginning of the Lakeshore Electric running through the farm fields of Avon Lake.
Yeah. Well, and that's all they had to say about it at that particular time. So, and then the newspapers also had something akin to our police blotter. I know you look at the police blotter when you pick up the paper, don't you?
First place I go after the obits. I always want to make sure I'm not dead yet.
You wouldn't know that from the police blotter necessarily. You'd have to turn to the obituary page for that. But look in the police blotter and see if your neighborhood is at peril because crime is sweeping the neighborhood. You want to know that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, these are some of the things that appeared in the police blotter of yore. How's that? You like that?
Okay.
In 1894, Al Walkden's buggy was stripped of valuable blankets while standing in his yard a few nights ago.
That's going on still today.
Oh.
I mean, I have a Ring doorbell, and it seems like every night I get another blast from somebody who said their car was broken into in the middle of the night, and
their blankets were stolen.
Yeah, their blankets were stolen.
Yeah, that's because they're stolen. And then there's this. You ready? This was April of 1901. A drunken vagabond was arrested and taken to jail Sunday.
Grandpa. It could be anybody's grandpa. It could have been my great grandpa. I don't know.
They summed that up nicely in one line, didn't they?
Yeah, yep. I love the word vagabond. Anytime you can use that in a sentence, it's a good day.
And then, in February of 1903 must have been just a really bad time because listen to 3 things happened in close proximity to one another. Terrible, terrible things. First of all, Mr. Tyson had a hog stolen from the pen one night. And the hog was worth $20. Well, this was 1903, so that's a pretty valuable hog. Sounds like a lot of bacon, huh?
Well, all you gotta do is go around that evening and find out who's got a pig roast, right? You got
exactly. Just smell for bacon and follow your nose. And that's not all. There was more. Clothes from a line were stolen the same night at Mr. Linden's.
I know that family. They don't want to mess with the Lindens.
You don't want your clothes stolen off your line. And then that wasn't all. There were also chickens taken from another neighboring farm. Someone went on a spree, a crime spree.
Well, it was a crime spree, and they had clothes to wear and they had plenty to eat. So
they're good. But
yep.
Bear in mind that this happened on February the 12th of 1903. And here we are. What's today? The 15th, right? Of February. Yeah. And there's a snowstorm and a blizzard coming through tonight. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be out stealing chickens and a hog.
Well,
and clothes.
If you were naked and you didn't have any clothes on, you'd be stealing those. And if you were hungry,
you'd be stealing frozen clothes off the line, though, if you were out there stealing.
Yeah, it'd be like going to Giant Eagle and making away with a bunch of pork chops.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll bet with this blizzard raging outside, you're going to stay home tonight. But you know what? That doesn't mean you can't stay home and have a pleasant time.
Sherry, I'm having a pleasant time talking to you right now. We're having a whale of a time, if you will.
A whale of a time.
So don't worry about what you put on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram because it's not original. You're not the first one, right?
Right.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Sherry. This has been a very intellectual evening, if you will. Oh, and by the way, enjoy your new glasses. Like them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's nice. And so for now, this is Tony Tominick, and
Sherry Spencer.
see you next time on A Minute of History. Or two.
Turn on the game and catch the play-by-play coming from the park. Mama opened up a map. We never had a clue about where we were going. She'd smile